Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of KLA Now, coming to you live from the Rockville office of Homebridge Financial Services. So today's topic, I am pre-approved. What could possibly go wrong? We laugh, and it's actually, we laugh because it's really actually not funny, but we're laughing because the problem is perpetuated constantly in the industry. And what that means is we get so many phone calls on a monthly basis where people have said, listen, my transaction just fell apart. We were pre-approved by another bank for 30, 45 days, and they called us the day of, the day before, the week before, and then now all of a sudden they can't get a loan. The loan officer has promised for weeks upon weeks, day after day, that everything is okay, and that pre-approval that they gave in the beginning was as solid as could possibly be. So here we go. The client goes off. They get a contract. They get a contract and off they go. And then somewhere in the process, things go terribly wrong. So how does that happen? So what we've done is today, as you can tell, I got a special guest with me. Her name is Meghan Christiano. Meghan is one of the underwriters here at Homebridge. And so there's two special things about that. Meghan is amazing at what she does, and two, I think that this may be the first time ever that somebody has actually seen an actual mortgage underwriter. So most people actually, most mortgage companies, excuse me, hide their underwriters from people. They don't want people to see who they are. They can't have any contact with them. We're here to tell you they actually exist. She's a real person. So as she may be a unicorn, but they are real people. And so I wanted to bring Meghan on the show today to actually talk not from a loan officer or a sales point of view, but actually from the underwriter. What do they see? And so that they can get an idea of how these things happen. So, if everybody has seen or watched these KLA Now episodes and what we do here at KLA, it's to make sure that you, the consumer, the buyer, you're getting the real information. That you're not being fed or perpetuating the problems that everybody sees is, we don't know what's going on. How do we get to this point? So, we'll start with this. A loan officer is a salesman, guys. There are some good loan officers out there. Make no mistake about that. But the vast majority of loan officers are nothing other than salesmen. They are designed to tell you pretty much anything that you want to hear, because the reality is this: they got no legal recourse. They can give you a pre-approval letter that is completely wrong, and there's nothing that you can do to the bank or that loan officer if they have screwed that up royally. So, scary proposition to think about it from that standpoint. And I'll tell you this, loan officers are trained to make things quick and easy because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear as quickly as possible, I have a loan, here's a piece of paper, go buy a house, go get yourself into risk and exposure, put money down. But let me show you something. These are mortgage underwriting guidelines. And each one of these books, here's Fannie Mae's book, and all the guidelines. Loan officers don't even have access to these, at least the vast majority of them. But if you saw how much detail is going in here, most loan officers aren't taking the time to make sure that your loan fits into every single guideline pertaining to your specific loan product and loan program. Do you know who does? Meghan Christiano. So she, or any underwriter, when they get that file, her job is to make sure that it fits. And if it doesn't, guess what? That pre-approval that's been issued, that solid, warm, comfortable piece of paper doesn't mean a thing. So, hopefully that makes a good point as to what could go wrong. And we hear it all the time. Things come up. Surprises come up. In fact, we can't use anybody's name, but 2 days ago we got a phone call where surprise child support popped up on a file. And this person had a contract and they were moving right along, but where did this surprise come from? It came from the pay stub that the loan officer had and reviewed the entire time, but just somehow failed to look at it. Failed to put it in. And then when you actually put that child support in, the file no longer qualifies. So how does that happen? It's as simple as a loan officer is not being diligent. They're not trained to look at the things that underwriters are trained at, to look at. So with that, I'm going to kind of pass it over to Meghan so that she can give us a list of some of the things that she sees when a file comes in, some problems that cause, the surprise. There's somebody here in our office. Her name is Jennifer Singh. She does marketing for Jeff Stempler. What's that saying that you like?
Surprises, great for birthdays, not for good for home loans.
Surprises, great for birthdays, but not good for home loans. So I don't know anybody that likes a surprise, when you're trying to buy a house. Buying a house is a business transaction. Diligence, proper due diligence needs to be performed, and you need to mitigate risk and exposure. So let's jump over to Meghan. One, thank you for joining us. Two, if you can, give us an idea of some of the things that you see as an underwriter that are the surprises that come through.
Undisclosed debt, new debt obtained based on credit inquiries. Loan officers generally don't even look at credit inquiries.
Not here, of course.
Well, in general, not here, but in general, most loan officers don't look at the credit inquiries on the credit report and the debts or new debts that might be associated with it. Large deposits. Someone has borrowed funds in order to purchase the home. Not many loan officers let their clients know that you can't borrow unsecured funds to buy a home. For example, you can't go and get a personal loan with Wells Fargo as your down payment for your mortgage.
Yeah, a lot of people think that that we're not going to document, like you might be able to pay for your closing costs on a credit card. Happens all the time. We get to where is the cash going to come from, and somebody actually says we can just put it on a credit card. You can't, guys. So everything has to be verified. Recently there was another client that we worked with that came to us from another bank, and they had an issue with occupancy. That actually comes up a lot as well. Tell me why a loan officer might not be able to catch occupancy. What is an underwriter going to look like or look at that a loan officer wouldn't?
We would look at the factors around where they're employed, the distance between their perhaps current primary residence to their place of employment, as well as the distance between their new primary residence to their employment. And they may not be selling their current primary residence prior to purchasing the new primary residence. It raises red flags. There's questions. Additional information would need to be supplied. There's quite a few borrowers that even move out of state, and they're using income from their current employer who is in a close proximity to their current home. Are you going to be working from home? Are you telecommuting? Is your employer aware of your move? Are you going to still have that job?
Yeah.
Income is a huge thing. I mean, if you can't document the income that you're receiving, and it's going to continue as part of your overall picture, then we're not qualifying you correctly, and you might not even qualify to pay us back for the money we're willing to lend you to purchase the home.
Yeah, and income's not as simple. It's not always as simple as the black and white ink that's on the paper. A loan officer's looking at that, and oftentimes they're not going to take into consideration an underwriting approach, which is a much more common sense rationale. Does this make sense? So there is that that goes into it. Talk a little bit about some of the services, and we call them services. I'll let Meghan explain that a little bit more. Services, verifications, things like TRVs, things that happen after when the loan is actually starting to be processed.
So once the loan actually gets into application and it goes to a processor has to do the due diligence to package up a file in order to present it to an underwriter, to make sure that there's nothing that the underwriter might necessarily pick up that could raise a red flag that the processor hasn't already addressed. So we order tax transcripts. Depending on your income profile for that loan file, we would look at, say, a W-2 transcript. So we're going to receive transcripts directly from the IRS, and we're going to compare those transcripts to the W-2s that you've supplied us. Tax transcripts for 1040s. A lot of borrowers, they go to a third party. Not everybody files individually or self-files anymore. So you go to your tax preparer. So your tax preparer provides you with a copy of your tax returns. You hand those tax returns to us. We pull your tax transcript from the IRS. They don't match. Well, your tax preparer perhaps hasn't given you the final copy of your tax returns. Yeah. It can send borrowers a little haywire because they're not understanding, because this is what they've received. Their tax preparer hasn't prepared them with a final supply them with a final version, and then your income can change. Your income can change on how it's calculated and how we qualify you. We order a third-party service that kind of does it's an online composition of data based on that borrower's property address, what's available through land records. Borrowers might not disclose to us that they own 2 other properties. That information is going to come back to us through our third-party service that says, hey, your borrower, it looks to me like they have ownership in this property. There's been several cases where we've gone back to the client and said, do you own this property? And they're, yeah, I own that property.
A lot of times that comes from business owners that have commercial lines that are actually the trade lines not showing up on your personal credit report, but it doesn't mean that in some situations that debt's not going to have to be held against you. So the point is that loan officers don't have the ability to run these services. These things only come up after you actually get a contract, put money down, and the loan starts getting processed. So a pre-approval is really only as good as the amount of due diligence that you do. And I referenced a couple shows back, we talked about the iceberg theory. So we talked about it, and that was the time that I drew a wonderful iceberg. But if you're thinking about it from the standpoint of how much do you see of that iceberg above the water, and generally speaking, it's only 10%. So a pre-approval is really only as good as how much has been reviewed and what can be left hanging out there to show up or pop up, the surprise, later on, after you have risk and exposure. So guys, all kinds of things can come up, all types. And we're not saying here that all loan officers are bad. That's not the point of this conversation. This is actually to teach you as the buyer, as the borrower of that mortgage, and it doesn't matter whether you're buying, a home or whether you're refinancing. These are all the types of things that can come up. So you want to make sure that we're talking specifically about pre-approvals, because that's where the risk is, and a lot of people think that piece of paper makes you feel secure. It gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling. Hey, I've talked to the bank. The loan officer said I'm good to go. We just want you to be aware that there is something that you should be requesting, and that's an extra level of due diligence. You should be asking an underwriter to review your documents to make sure that before you put your family or yourself at risk, you want to know that things are certain. So, do we have any questions today? Anything come up? Good, no questions. All right. We'd love it. Like us here on Facebook, tag us, share us. The more people that they know this information, the better it's going to be. We consider ourselves to be the watchdogs for the mortgage industry. We want to make sure that people are getting the right information so that you guys can educate yourselves on how to protect yourselves. So if there's anybody that has any questions at any point in time, always feel free to watch out for us. Meghan, do you have any final words for our buyers out there as an underwriter? Any kind of recommendations, suggestions, anything?
I recommend honesty. You lay it out there. You let your loan officer know all the details. They will take it from there. They'll take it to their processing staff, their underwriting staff, their review, whoever's actually working on that file for you, and you lay the details out so it can be best packaged up so you're not in a position where a week before settlement, someone's telling you they can't offer you a loan.
Yeah, we don't want anything bad to happen to you, so this is great information. Meghan, thank you for joining us today. Hopefully everybody thought that this was great. Again, one of the rare moments in life where you actually get to meet and see a mortgage underwriter. So thanks for joining us on this week's edition of KLA Now. We look forward to seeing you next week.